We hope you've been enjoying The Benefits of Being an Octopus by Anne Braden. And so we're going to continue on here today. We're going to pick up on page 112 where we left off. And so give me 15 minutes on the clock. I glanced up to see him smiling. That's the best kind of teacher. My mom pushes through the kitchen doors, wiping her hands on her apron. Good news, Connor says. We figured out a way for Zoe to do an after school activity that she needs to do. My mom cocks her head. How? Connor jumps in. I'm going to get to play with Hector until Zoe can get here. My mom looks between us a few times like she's trying to figure out what the trick is. I take a deep breath. I need you to give me permission for my social studies teacher to give me a ride to Bryce and Aurora's bus stop when it's over. I'll be able to pick them up just like normal. She peers at me. So there are people bending over backwards to make this happen? Yeah, I don't know why. I glance at Connor. It's just an after school activity. My mom shrugs. Well, if you want to do that, it's fine with me. Nothing's going to change too much. She looks at Connor. Are you sure? You know we can't pay you. Connor smiles wide. Couldn't be more sure. And now, he smacks the table as his eyes light up. It's all set. He leans closer and whispers, Look out, you stupid after school activity. Here comes Zoe. Connor, my mom says, it looks like your table is ready to pay. Do you want me to take care of it? Connor shakes his head. I got it. Then he looks at me. When does this all start? I bite my lip. Monday. Great, he says. Great, I think. Like, isn't it great I just signed up to voluntarily gnaw my arm off? My mom sits down where Connor was before and starts rolling silverware into napkins. The wrinkles across her forehead are deeper than they used to be. Thanks for buying us yogurt, I blurt out. What? She says, startled. Oh, yeah, that. It's really good, I say, and it's healthy too. My teacher for health class loves to talk about how good yogurt is for you. My mom nods. My teacher also says it's not good to eat too much red meat. My mom's eyes slowly work over to me. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just saying that if you want to buy yogurt, no one should be allowed to stop you. My mom's eyes narrow into a full-on glare, her jaw tight. She grabs the silverware rolls and stands up, without a word, and walks off. A moment later, the kitchen doors swing shut behind her and she's gone. She's never going to step into a dairy aisle again, is she? Mom thinks that nothing's going to change too much. It's up to me to prove her wrong. Chapter 15. The next day at the end of social studies class, it's me who is lingering. When Miss Rochambeau finishes up a conversation with one of the girls who's obsessed with getting 100, I step forward. My mom said it's fine if you drive me, but what? She puts down the stack of rubrics she's holding. Are you sure you can do it? Absolutely, Miss Rochambeau says. It'll be my pleasure. I look down at the floor. Because if I don't get on the bus and then for some reason you can't, she puts her hand on my shoulder. I will be just as reliable as a bus, I promise. And the final excuse flies out the window. On Monday, when the dismissal bell rings, convincing my feet to walk to the library feels impossible. Those other kids are going to know that I'm choosing to be there, that I think I deserve to be there. When I get to the window that overlooks the parking lot, I pause. The buses are still at the curb, idling their engines. If I make a break for it now, I could skip out on this and ride the bus home like normal. On the other side of the pickup area, I spot Fuchsia leaning against a no parking sign, fiddling with her phone. It's just for show though, because I know that she doesn't have any minutes. Not that she could tell me in a normal way. She had to sigh 7 times and roll her eyes 13 different directions just to get me to ask the right question about it. Lately, it seems like I'm just a warm body whose job is to play her eye-rolling games. I move the collar of my camo jacket aside and reach over my shirt to touch my octopus tattoo. An octopus would get taken seriously. If I looked like one of those eager beaver kids from debate, everything would be different. I close my eyes. I can camouflage myself well enough to blend in with a desk. I just need to camouflage myself well enough to blend in with them. I take a deep breath and flex my tentacles. Then I head for the library. By the time I get there, Miss Rochambeau has already started the meeting. Now, the first thing that makes this different from Ace Period Debate Club is the tournament that's at the end, she's saying. I slip into the same chair where I sat for Ace Period and produce my notebook and pen like all the other kids around me. It's a statewide tournament with students from all over Vermont, so I want you to make sure you are as well prepared as possible. We'll start by digging into skills and techniques that then zero in on preparing for a specific topic after that. One of the debates at the tournament will be the topic we prepared, but you don't know which side you'll get assigned. The other one will have a topic that gets assigned by the judges, so you have to be ready for anything. Our goal this month is to make you confident debaters. You need to be for the tournament. I block out most of the stuff about the tournament that there's absolutely no way I'm going to, but I do make note of another confident for Miss Rochambeau's general tally. She's up to 28. I can still blend in with the eager beavers. I can still pretend I'm like them. Maybe, after long enough, that magic wand of confidence will mistake me for them and give me a bop on the head too. Now today we'll be discussing your most important defensive tactic. Miss Rochambeau starts writing on the board. From behind me, a boy calls out, before she's even written 2 letters down, "Discrediting your opponent." Exactly, Miss Rochambeau finishes writing it, underlines it, and then wanders over close to my table. I squish my boneless octopus body down into its small bag of chips size. To discredit someone means to undermine them, she says, but there's an important distinction you all need to pay close attention to. You're not trying to undermine your opponent as a person. You are simply trying to undermine their argument. Who can give me an example of what that means? One of the 8th grade boys jumps out of his seat. Like if someone is using research to show that schools should get rid of homework, you could point out that they probably did that research at home and you've proven your point for you. And they've proven your point for you. Miss Rochambeau tilts her head, sort of like that. Could someone give me another example? A black girl who's sitting at the other 8th grade table raises her hand and Miss Rochambeau nods to her. Go ahead, Kyla. It's like if someone was arguing we shouldn't have affirmative action in college because it's an unfair advantage, Kyla says. And then I point out that the real unfair part is the 400 years of systematic oppression that made it harder for African Americans to go to good schools and get good jobs just because of the color of their skin. Lydia shifts in her seat like the words themselves are making her uncomfortable. Maybe if I knew what affirmative action was, I'd feel uncomfortable too. Maybe if I thought there was a chance of me going to college. Exactly, Miss Rochambeau is saying. Now, who can give an example of something that would be a personal attack of what you shouldn't do? Matt raises his hand. If we were talking about the dress code, it wouldn't be appropriate if I told Lydia that she can't be objective about it since she's a girl and girls are obsessed with how they look. Matt has hardly finished speaking when Lydia whacks him on the head. Not in a flirty way either, in a don't you even dare way. Right, Miss Rochambeau says, ignoring the whack. We respectfully point out the holes in an opponent's argument, but we don't attack the person themselves. It's their argument that isn't as good as yours, not them. Keep it separate. That's funny. Since when does the world work like that? Now, there are several different ways to approach it, Miss Rochambeau is saying. First, you can show your opponent's point is insignificant compared to your point, just like Kyla's example. I glance back at Kyla, and she's taking notes on everything Miss Rochambeau is saying, maybe word for word. She means business. Second, Miss Rochambeau considers, you can prove your opponent's point isn't relevant. Or, third, you can turn their point around and show how it actually proves your side instead. Miss Rochambeau picks up a stack of papers and starts passing them out to each table. In your table groups, you're going to be picking out examples from a debate that's transcribed here. Identify instances where one of the participants attempted to discredit the other, and then look for any missed opportunities. I glance at Matt and Lydia and pick up the paper just like they do. I start reading it, but keep sneaking peeks at them to make sure I'm still on track. When they start shifting around like they're done reading, I still have one more paragraph to go, probably because of all the peeking. So I skip it. I pretend I'm done too, even though I actually really want to finish. The resolution for the sample debate was that fair government should require employees to pay a living wage. And I kind of have an opinion on that. Like, I keep waiting for the paper to talk about how amazing it'd feel if your family didn't need to fill out that government form for an EBT card, and if you had enough money to buy new underwear as soon as you needed. Lydia is the first one to talk. So if we highlight all the examples, sure, Matt says, that sounds good. Do either of you guys need a highlighter? Lydia asks, digging into her bag. I've got a ton of them. She fishes out a handful and deposits them in the middle of the table. Thanks. Matt takes a blue one. She really meant me, right? I glance up. She's looking at me like she did. The whole blending in like an eager beaver is working better than I thought. Thanks, I murmur. I reach out and slide the closest highlighter towards me. Okay, so that first line in the second paragraph is definitely one, Matt says, where debater number 1 says it doesn't matter if someone's wage goes up if they get fired, and they'll get fired because the company can't afford to pay them more. That's showing their point is more important than the other person's point. And probably the next couple lines in that paragraph too. The top section of his paper is turning light blue. There's another example further down the page from debater 2, Lydia says. Do you see where they take debater 1's point and twist it around to show companies wouldn't have to fire people if more people in our country have money to spend because they would help businesses? We should highlight that. Matt nods. He highlights it. I nod. I highlight it. Matt points at another paragraph. This part where debater 1 says debater 2 is too soft and overdramatic and not paying attention to the numbers. That's one of those personal attacks Miss Rochambeau doesn't want us to use. But they do seem to work. I don't know if we should highlight it. I bet debater number 2 is a girl and debater number 1 is a boy, Lydia starts rolling her eyes. Girls are always being told they're too dramatic. Matt laughs. Whatever. Lydia points her highlighter at him. There's an example right there, trying to dismiss what I say as not important. Oh, I was just kidding, Matt says. He glances at me like he's looking for support. That's another example, Lydia snaps, pretending not to be serious when you're called to account for your flaws, thereby trying to leave your opponent with only imaginary ground to stand on. Matt looks over at me again. Part of me wants to smile at him and send the message that I'm on his side, but the other part of me thinks that would be another example and Lydia would be snapping at me. And as much as I want to find out what it's like to be Matt, now I want to know what it's like to be Lydia even more. How's it going over there, Miss Rochambeau says, coming to our table. It's good, Matt says. He seems completely unfazed by the wagging highlighter of Lydia. Miss Rochambeau glances down at the highlighting on Matt's sheet. Looks like you're off to a fine start. Have you discussed the missed opportunities yet? Matt grins up at her. We're just about to start that. Miss Rochambeau nods and moves on to the table of 8th grade boys who are all standing up and yelling at each other. So what debater number 2 should have said after being called over dramatic, Lydia says, is that the only person being over dramatic is the person who thinks all businesses are going to collapse if workers get paid enough, and thinks if he thinks it's over dramatic to actually face the realities of what workers are, Matt cuts her off. But if she says it like that, it'll just prove his point that she's over dramatic. She needs to, as Matt and Lydia go back and forth about what imaginary things these imaginary people could have said to each other, I sneak looks at both of them. Could I really be like them? I mean, an octopus can change colors 10 times in a matter of seconds, so all sorts of ridiculous things are possible. As I lean back, I overhear Kyla at the other table saying that if people always made a living wage, they'd be able to buy things like books for their kids to read, and how that'd be a good thing for the country. I love my octopus book. Imagine if I had two. I go to debate club on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and nothing explodes. I don't ever actually say anything, but I pay attention and do the written parts. Miss Rochambeau drives me home every day. Her car smells like coffee, and I'm on time to pick up Bryce and Aurora. Oh, and that's 15 minutes. We'll see you guys all again.